Bullwork is building autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles designed for off-highway environments. Agriculture still employs 40 to 50% of India's workforce, yet contributes less than one-fifth to the GDP, which tells you that productivity gap is massive.
We realized that nobody is really kind of going down on a physics first approach for this. Everybody was kind of looking at it from a retrofit point of view. Okay, I already have a tractor. How do I make it electric? Just change the whole thing. Just put in a motor, add some batteries and convert it to electric.
Do you think agriculture was the right market to start with? If somebody is targeting agriculture as a sector to, say, test and prototype?
When we started building the vehicle first, we said it will be a platform approach. So we call it as our Bulwark platform, where across the board we have a very similar architecture. Our electrical architecture, our software stack, our modularity in our different machines. So, and we have a lot of parts commonality as well.
Joining me today is Hemanth, the founder of Bullwork Mobility, a company building electric autonomous vehicles for agriculture, construction, and industrial uses in India. Hemant has been working on the intersection of hardware autonomy and real-world operation, solving problems that don't get talked about enough when we discuss self-driving technology. At a very high level, Bulwark is building autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles designed for off-highway environments. Today's conversation is especially important in the Indian context. Agriculture still employs 40 to 50% of India's workforce, yet contributes less than one-fifth to the GDP, which tells you that productivity gap is massive. So the question is no longer whether automation will come to these sectors, but how will it happen, what form will it take, and whether it will actually work in the Indian conditions. Hi, Hemant. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, hi, Dusty. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I'll just quickly start. Could you give us a quick introduction about yourself, your background, and what led you to build Bulwark?
Sure. So I'm Hemant. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Bullwork Mobility. We are into electric autonomous vehicles, and primarily our flagship product is electric tractor, which is completely electric, ground up designed. When we say ground up design, it's made by us from scratch. It's not a retrofit. And coming to myself, I've been in this product development sector for more than about 18 years now, working in companies like GE, and then I started my electric journey with Ather, and then I was in Ola, and for the past I would say 4.5 years we have been doing the electric tractors, and also we are also targeting the construction segment as well. So we are primarily into what we call as the off-highway segment. So that's the like a very brief introduction about what we are kind of doing.
Got it. So for someone completely new to this space, from my understanding, Bulwark is building off-highway vehicles, focusing on autonomous vehicles, and you're targeting agriculture and construction and mining as a segment.
Yes.
If that's right.
Yes.
Why do you think agriculture and construction make sense as an first autonomy markets in India compared to, say, urban delivery robots or passenger vehicles?
See, it's the biggest advantage an electric vehicle has, right? See, apart from all the environmental benefits that you get out of it, to us that is actually a secondary benefit. The primary advantage is the cost of running a machine is significantly cheaper, right? That's the biggest advantage that you get out of a electric vehicle when you compare to an ICE where you're running diesel. Like, to give a very simple example, a diesel tractor today consumes anywhere between 4 to 5 liters of diesel every hour to run. So which means that you are burning, even at the bottom end of it, about 400 rupees an hour. And a typical tractor usage is about 1,000 hours in a year. Now you are now looking at about 4 lakh rupees worth of diesel that you are just putting into the machine to run it. Now with electric, that cost could be as low as 1 to 1.5 lakhs. So that delta, that 2.5 or 3 lakh rupees that you save, that is the biggest advantage that you can give to a farmer when you say to him that, okay, buy our machine and you don't need to worry about spending diesel on an everyday basis, right? That's the biggest USP of an electric vehicle. And that's where when we started kind of going down this road, so we have 3 co-founders, myself, Mr. Vinay Raghuram, Dr. Shreya Shah, and Mr. Mahesh Shetty. So when we kind of started looking at it, then we kind of realized that, see, it was very easy for us to kind of go down the road of a two-wheeler or a three-wheeler or a four-wheeler, where the adoption is easier and the way to market is also kind of predefined right now. People are used to it. But when we actually looked at it, we realized that how you impact a customer's life as well, right? So what value you are giving to the customer is, if you are able to save them money, and money saved is money earned. So if you are able to do that, then that's a bigger advantage that you can give to that customer. So that's what primarily attracted to us towards this space. And the second one is, we realized that nobody is really kind of going down on a physics first approach for this. Everybody was kind of looking at it from a retrofit point of view. Okay, I already have a tractor. How do I make it electric? Just change the whole thing. Just put in an motor, add some batteries, and convert it to electric. So we said, okay, a lot of these were tried already as in the car and the two-wheeler sector, but that's the reason why it never really took off until unless somebody like Tesla came in, or somebody like Ather came in, who said, okay, we have to do this from ground up to make this work. Otherwise, it's not going to work, right? So that's the same approach that we have taken for this tractor as well as other construction equipments that we are doing.
Right. No, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. This actually makes a lot of sense because, like you said, there's a lot of retrofit models out there that are trying to, again, the whole plug and play model where they use the pre-made autonomous stack and then they just sort of add it to their hardware layer. But that will break at some point, given the like the conditions in India do not like specifically suit that, right? So, yeah.
So I mean,
So
again, so our approach to this was, if I take an existing vehicle and try to make it autonomous, right? It's again, I'm not really utilizing the whole, I would say, the whole spectrum of this vehicle design process. So that's where, when we said we are going to do this from ground up, we said, okay, how do we make it autonomous ready from day one, right? So the only way was, okay, make it completely drive by wire. So we don't have any physical controls that goes from the driver to the wheels. So it's completely drive by wire, and what that enables us is, we can do it. We can control the machine through a remote control. We can control the machine through our own app. So our intelligence system is called Bhai, bh.ai. So Bhai sits on the machine and it takes care of the machine. And with that, so it's also an edge computing where we are also able to do a lot of our own ML models, which is running on the machine. Again, so when we talk about autonomy, we are not envisioning that there is a guy who is sitting at his home and saying, go to the field and do the work. So, because it's not that simple as well. So, what we are talking about is, we call it as the in-field autonomy. So, you take it to a field and you ask it to do work, right? So, you say you want to do tilling, you want to do spraying, you want to do rotavating. These are the kind of things which is a repetitive task, but it requires skill, right? Where India is also facing a significant amount of labor shortages. So that's where we are kind of targeting, and we are building up that entire technology. Again, from the machine as well as from the tech, it's all kind of married together as a one single product.
and that brings me to a question. You mentioned some use cases within agriculture that you've shortlisted or chosen because obviously you need to of course train the model on those tasks, and of course it takes a lot of time to do that. So what characteristics do you think make a task suitable for early automation?
See, something that is, like I said, is something which is very repetitive, right? And you don't want people to do that as well. And sometimes what happens is, if it is too repetitive, you don't get people to do it as well. See, in one of the cases where we are automating, it's actually a place where there is a coir field. Okay, so there is this coir industry where the entire work is, somebody goes there and just literally walks on that uh, pith, what we call as coir pith, to ensure that the sun drying happens evenly. Now, from a coir industry perspective, it's a very critical process, but from a labor perspective, it is absolutely mundane. So what we have done is, we have kind of automated that whole process, which does this work faster, as well as it solves the labor issues for the end user as well. So these are some of the things that we are kind of looking at, where it's a low, I would say it's a low quality but high impact work. And the flip side of it, let's say if you take about tilling, right? If you have a tractor, so you have to till it before it starts raining so that you can plant seeds. Now, what happens in this tilling is a very high skill job. Like, a driver needs to know exactly how he is doing the tilling. Otherwise, it doesn't do the tilling properly. There, the issue is the labor shortages, right? Because again, in if you take a particular area, let's say if you take a particular district, the tilling happens at once because they know that okay, the rain is going to come in the next 10 days, so everybody starts tilling, right? At that time, the availability of labor dictates whether you are actually going to sow the seeds or not. So in this case, where let's say if you have a tractor, you go take it to a field and your tractor is trained to do the tilling. So you can just say, this is my area, where we can set the area by either geofencing. We have a couple of ways of setting the area where we geofence it with. Either you drive the tractor along the edge of the field and say, this is my area, or you can do a GPS mapping. So there are a couple of ways where you can just do the geotagging, and the vehicle will ensure that it will stay within that region and it will do the tilling for you. And if it is not able to do the tilling, so we have vision based cameras on board where it will actually ping back to the driver saying that, okay, I'm not able to do this. Come and help me out. So all of these are kind of built.
Got it. So, from my understanding, I think what we've summarized is certain characteristics could be labor availability versus the level of skill required, repeatability of the activity, how standardized is the activity or the steps involved in doing the activity. Right, basis that you make the call of what tasks can be automated in this entire
Yes.
landscape. And just before deep diving into the entire tech stack and how things are working, wanted to understand. Agriculture is known to be a tough market, right? There are fragmented buyers, it's highly price sensitive, and it is seasonal in usage.
Yes.
So, in retrospect, do you think agriculture was the right market to start with? If somebody is targeting agriculture as a sector to say test and prototype.
See, the way that we look at it is, see, we have got this question many times as well, right? It's the same question with at the base level an electric tractor, right? The question is, do you think India is ready for an electric tractor, right? So, because there is no electricity in the Indian market, in the Indian rural sector. The way that we look at it is every I would say product has a necessity and need right now, and there is definitely a gap in the market. Like the moment we stepped out and actually started looking at it, there is a definite need to plug in the gap of that labor. Right? There is a labor shortage in India. I mean, people say that okay, there are a lot of laborers in India available, but the reality of it is during the time, especially for agri, at the time of harvesting, at the time of transportation, or at the time of couple of at the time of spraying as well, which is even more critical, the labor is not available. So the way that we are looking at it is, yes, it's a tough market to crack, but the point is, food security is also a very, very critical thing today, right? Because a lot of people are moving to urban cities for job, living, farming, and everything, but everybody has to eat. So the food has to come from somewhere. Now, if I start working on it when everything is settled and everybody is ready to accept, then we are already too late to kind of get into that market. So if we don't build it, nobody is going to adopt it as well. So it has to start somewhere. So the way that we look at it is we want to kind of pave the way for people, and we want more people to kind of come in as well, because the market is so big that it's not like a one-person game where you say today Bulwark is doing it. If tomorrow somebody else comes into it, like we are going to go out or they are going to go out. It's just that the market is so huge that there is the more people come in, the more the ecosystem is going to be better.
I think a lot of people have issues entering the agriculture market because it's hard to determine who has the paying capacity, and it's hard to determine the exact audience for a particular service, right? So most of the companies that have tried to enter or start with agriculture have usually started with say the part which is closest to the consumer, let's say organic farming, or the part which is easily monetizable. So, from your personal experience, who is the final buyer for an autonomous vehicle catering to agriculture? Do you work with one-on-one farmers directly, or do you work with large companies that that own or control lands?
So it's, I would say it's a mix of both. So there are some, I would say, pioneering farmers as well. Like there are some very early adopters who have big farms. Somebody, for an example, we are talking to a person who has about 700 acres of farm. Right. For him, every day the issue is he needs to find labor to run his tractor. So he has in his own farm he has about 25 tractors. Right. So his thing is he's having two issues. One is he's burning diesel on a daily basis, and he's also having issues with labor. Now, our solution kind of caters to both of his problem, where We are reducing this, and he has abundance of power inside his own farm. Like he has ensured that there is power available there, irrespective of whatever the time it is. So, which means that now, if I give him a solution which offsets his diesel, now diesel is something that has to be brought in from outside. He cannot generate his own diesel, or he cannot have a pipeline to his farm as well. So diesel is something that is being in from outside. There is pilferages going on. He is very sure that out of, let's say, if he's paying 100 rupees, 20 rupees is not really for diesel. That is going into pilferages. So that is one aspect of it. The other is the labor aspect of it as well. Like he sometimes during harvesting, he doesn't find people to do the harvesting. So where now when we deploy our machine to with him, right, he's seeing that as a solution, and he's also kind of recommending it to his friends whom he knows. The same way we are working with a couple of other people who are, again, who we call early adopters or pioneers. And there is also in the farming community, there is a status thing as well, where he said, I'm the first guy who has got the first electric tractor. I'm the first person who has got an autonomous electric tractor as well. So that is one aspect of it. And we are also working with a lot of industries where for them, there are clear mandates coming from their own companies as well, where they have to meet ESG goals and they have to meet some technology goals, right? So, and we kind of fall into both the category, where by ESG we are offsetting the carbon that is being generated from diesel, so that helps there, and the AI or the technology bit where we are automating a lot of process, so that also kind of fits there.
Got it. Got it. So I think the top-down pressure is in your favor. So the
Yes.
tailwinds look great. So okay, thank you for that. So we're looking at a healthy mix of farmers with larger land ownings, and we're looking at some of the industries
Yes.
which control significant land. Okay, I think let's focus on the technology stack. I also wanted to deep dive into that. Autonomous vehicles. So when people hear autonomous vehicles, they imagine a black box. Can you break down the autonomous vehicle stack at a high level? What is the tech stack like? What are the key layers? Yeah.
So the way that we are doing is there is an app at a customer level, which is the top layer, right? That app interacts with the vehicle and it gets real time updates through internet connection, or it could be through Wi-Fi. We have pretty much end to end covered everything on the machine, so that any type of communication that you can think of, it's available on the machine. So if the vehicle is going well, so it is what it is doing is it is giving all the stats to the customer, saying that okay, I'm going this way, I've covered this much of field, my state of health is this much, my battery charge is this much, and I can cover probably another 5 acres with currently like how I'm running right now. So all of this information goes back to the customer. Now, in case it stops, so we send out that alerts as well, saying that okay, I'm no longer moving because either one of these issues, either my camera stopped working, or it's very low light, where we have actually lights that will come on in, or in case the lights have stopped working, or there is a cow in front of me and it is not moving, right? Or there is a huge boulder, but I'm not able to navigate around it because there is no path around it. So all of these are some things, again, use case by use case, we keep building on it. So there is a base case, and then you have all the corner case that we kind of build on it.
Got it. Okay. And of course, I'll deep dive into the architecture that you explained. But so when we're talking about EVs today, or AVs today, right? Autonomous vehicles, we look at the hardware and the software stack. So where do you think, where is the onus lying? More on hardware or more on software when you're talking about autonomous vehicles?
See, in autonomy today, I mean, I would say it's equal, right? I cannot just have one kind of say, let's say, sensor and say I'm going to do the autonomy bit of it, because the machine is not a small machine. If it was like a, let's say, a toy, right? Then you can say okay, like fine, what it does, it's going to just crash into something. Whereas when you're dealing with something like a tractor, which weighs about 2 tons, and if it hits somebody, there are real consequences, as well as, let's say, if it hits a wall or if it goes on the edge of a canal, right, it's going to fall off. So all of these conditions have to be kind of roped in. So it's a marriage of both the hardware and the software, where hardware has to include a lot of redundancies, which, like I said, right? So it could be cameras, it could be LiDARs, it could be GPS, it could be ultrasonic sensors, it could be uh, IMUs, it could be GPS, including like a very high precision GPSs, like the RTK GPSs. We also do have a lot of Wi-Fi coming off it. We have Bluetooth for connectivity, so that you fall back into different modes, and it's a connected machine, which means that there is internet connectivity always available. So it is absolutely a marriage between. So once you have all of this hardware figured out, then how do you bring all of this data from the hardware to your uh, basically your control drivers, and from there your basically the application layer, and how is it making sense on your compute device, right? So all of these are kind of married together.
Got it. All right. So you basically need full control over both. And you said that you're building your entire stack. So your hardware and your software is both built in house. Uh, i- or are you working with some other partner for hardware?
No. So yes, see, hardware, what we're doing is we are kind of again marrying what is commercially available out there, as well as some things that we are building on our own. Like it does not make sense for us to build an entirely new board from scratch, because that's a heavy investment. And today, where the market is, and a lot of all these where the LLM models are also coming in, it makes sense for us to go and get something which is commercially available, take that in, integrate it, build something on top of that, which is our own, basically all the things that we require, marry all of this hardware together and build the software from scratch. So that's what we are doing.
So you mentioned in an interview that you've and you just mentioned right now you've built a platform which is bh.ai. It's a very nice name, by the way, Bhai. And you are using that same software to build different vehicles. So could you tell us a little bit more about what Bhai is? Is it a vehicle operating system? Is it an autonomy stack which is included?
So right now, Bhai is our I would say the intelligent software, and it's also an app. Look, it's both together. Where what it does is it gathers information from all the hardware and kind of makes sense of it. That's what it does on a step one. And it is also the way to control the vehicle. So I can switch between, let's say, an autonomous mode to a remote control mode to an like an app control mode through the same app, right? I can execute missions. I can say, okay, now if it was doing circles, if I say, okay, start doing a rectangle, so that is through the app. So I can configure all of this. And what it also does is it's a live connect to the vehicle, and the vehicle is talking to the app, saying that, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm going, this is my direction. So it's a live, and the camera gives a live feed as well. Anywhere in the world, you can sit and monitor your vehicles through the app, where you can say, okay, my vehicle right now, it's going this way, it's navigating remotely. Or let's say somebody tampers with it, you can kind of get that as well. I can remotely turn off the machine as well. If somebody has stolen it, I can just say, turn off, don't turn on. So all of these are possible. The hardware purely sits on the machine. So we have our own what we call as VCU, so vehicle control unit. So vehicle control unit gathers all of the data from the sensors. So it's an edge compute where it does all the computing. It takes decisions, and those decisions are dictated by the app, saying that, okay, now you are executing a completely autonomous mission. Go and do it. So it will do that. Or it says, now you're in a remote control mode. I'm going to tell you how you are moving around. So it will do that as well. So all of these are enabled by the app.
Okay. So there's a conversation happening between the VCU and the software that you've built. On the basis of that conversation, I mean, I would say the instructions are given to the hardware to move, perform an activity, stop performing an activity. Okay, got it. Thank you for that. Thank you for explaining this. So you use the same software for multiple vehicles, I'm assuming across agri and construction. So what does Bhai abstract away, or what does that software abstract away that allows you to build multiple vehicles on the same base? So
Yeah.
what is core algo?
So actually the other way around. When we started building the vehicle first, we said it will be a platform approach. So we call it as a Bulwark platform, where across the board we have a very similar architecture. Our electrical architecture, our software stack, our modularity in our different machines. So, and we have a lot of parts commonality as well. So that's our base. So we started with the hardware actually, saying that, okay, this is common across the board. And when we did that, then it became easy for us, saying that, okay, now to tie it all back in, I have one control device which can now uh, go into all of the vehicles. So if you kind of look at it, we are developing our autonomy platform on a vehicle called Vamana. Now Vamana is a small tugger. It can haul about 6 tons on a gradient and a 15 ton on a flat ground. So that is where we are fully testing our autonomous stack. And the same autonomous stack, we take it and put it onto our tractor. And the same autonomous stack, we put it onto our sprayer as well. So uh, when we built this platform on a hardware level from day one, so that's enabled us to control everything through the same app.
That's a novel approach of uh, like approaching the whole problem and the whole situation where there's a hardware and software marrying that is happening, and when you have to expand or juxtapose the software across multiple different types of hardware formats, etc. So that's nice. And at an algorithmic level, just wanted to understand, where is the most intelligence concentrated? Is it within the whole ecosystem? Is it perception, localization, planning, or control?
So I would say right now, the most amount of algo is the planning aspect of it, right? Where, see, again, if it was, so there are again multiple ways to execute a machine. So we have given authority on a different way of how do you do the planning as well. So let's say there is a plan where it's a, now it's, let's say, I'll simplify it now. Let's say the shape is a rectangle. So the vehicle keeps doing a rectangular shape. Okay. In the middle, if something happens, it will just stop. It will say, I've stopped. I was doing the rectangle, but there is a cow in the middle now. I'm just gonna stop. The cow is not moving, or there is something that happened, like a tree fell down, I'm just stopping there. So that is, let's say, level one. Now the level two is it's doing a rectangle, but something is in the middle there. It will see, okay, how long it's waiting. If it is too long, then it will start to reroute the whole section, so that it will go around and see the surrounding areas. If it is clear and if it is able to map the separate route, it will map a separate route and start executing that new route. Now that is without the intervention of the driver there. Right. So now that's a level two. Right. So for that, you need a lot more compute power, you need a lot more sensory vision, and you need to kind of understand the environment around it as well. That's like a level two. Right. So level three is when you're doing that rectangular, you're also doing something else. Let's say I'll give you an example. We are running this a process where we are spraying for grapes. Right. So now when it's doing all of this, the third thing is it is also seeing the surrounding area, and it is, let's say, counting how many grapes are there. So that because you are seeing this field on a daily basis, you can actually start monitoring how the grapes are growing, how the yield is there any disease that is coming. So this is, I would call it as a third layer. Right. So how you kind of train these models as well as do the planning is the complication. The first one is very simple. Second is a bit more complicated. The third is again a bit more complicated than that.
So are these decisions being taken off the fly, or are some, like most of those I'm assuming, are pre-configured, like a basic architecture of if this then that?
Yes, it is. It is if then that is there. But let's say in the second model, right? So let's say if it starts taking a left and it sees a boulder, then it has to come back and take a right.
Right.
So that is a artificial intelligence model that is running on the machine, where it is
Okay.
able to take that decision. And so the decision has a tree. I mean, there is a decision tree where you say if there is an obstruction on the left, an obstruction on the on the right, then you have to go back and do all of that is there. But
Got
many of those are again taken on the fly by the so, but the parameters exist as well, that okay, if there is an obstruction, then if it is not able to do anything, then it just stops and then pings back to the driver. So again, so these are like layers of complexity that we are building on top.
Right. So I think I personally find autonomous vehicles, find them very interesting because there are so many problems to solve. So there is, of course, there is the localization problem as to figuring out where the vehicle is at a particular point in time. Right? And then there is a vision problem, which is the hardware of looking at various things and then sending back the data. Then, of course, there is a software and the intelligence layer, which at the moment guides the vehicle what to do, where to do, and then the whole decision tree that you have to pre-build, taking into consideration all the edge cases.
Yeah. I will give you one more case. So, like I said, right? So, we are doing both for agri and construction. So, we have deployed our machines in construction sites as well. So, the big thing about construction is, so today it's an empty field, tomorrow there is a building there, right? So there is a road here today, tomorrow that road does not exist because they have moved the whole thing somewhere else. And there is a huge pile of, let's say you have been going in the same path, so tomorrow it's a dump yard. So there is a lot of material that is kept there. So it's a very, very dynamic environment. Whereas a farm, I would say it's not as dynamic environment as a construction site, right? So because things change literally on a daily basis in a construction. So we are kind of working there as well to see how we navigate that area as well. So because we are doing a lot of material movement from, let's say, building 1 to building 3. So tomorrow in the middle, building 2 will start coming in. Now, how do you navigate around building 2 to get to 3? So all of these are, some of these things are decisions on the fly. Some of them have to be programmed, whereas other things have to be taken on the fly as well.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, algorithmically, I think it'd be quite interesting to understand the context memory of what at the moment, what does it save, what does it store, what does it leave, and
Yes.
then, of course, amount of compute it takes to take that decision real time. So, we've heard people talking about localization as a problem when we're talking about passenger vehicles, right? We've heard a lot about how that becomes a problem and how that is being solved. But I think you can give us a unique insight as to how you're trying to solve that with respect to farmlands and construction sites. Uh,
So the biggest advantage that we have there, right? Uh, it is that ours are slow moving vehicles, right? It is not a very far. Like I don't have to have such a compute that I have to take a split second decision at 60 kilometers per hour or at 80 kilometers per hour or even at 40 kilometers per hour. Because when I'm working, it is a slow operation. I'm not more than like 10 kilometers per hour, right? So that is one way it kind of helps us as well. And coming to the whole point of globalization and localization, this aspect of it, the speed aspect of the vehicle. So that helps us to take a lot of decisions. Even if I'm off, let's say if I have a heading and if I'm off, if I'm drifting away, so I have time to kind of come back to it and I realize that okay, I'm drifting away. So that helps us in choosing hardware which is not very expensive as well. Right? So if I can literally do away with a basic GPS than with an RTK GPS because my margin of error is still there. So because I'm moving slow, if I'm drifting, I can come back to it. So that is one aspect, especially in a farm setting, that helps us. Whereas, let's say in a passenger car, it's a totally different thing, and the system is very very dynamic there as well. If you have vehicles coming in from all the sides, from left, right, and then you have a big pothole coming into this thing as well. Whereas in our case, it's even though it is, people may not think it is, but it is still a very, very controlled environment. In a farm, right? Well, I'm inside the farm. What max can happen is I can get few dogs or few cows or few people just coming in to the picture as well.
yeah, yeah.
So that like I said, right? So that kind of helps us in a very big way to kind of look into that, and solving for that is relatively easier for us.
Hmm. The pros being, like you mentioned, the speed, which is different when you compare it with passenger vehicle. The cons being the frequent change in terrain and the unreliability of GPS and internet that you have there at the moment to be able to signal back the terrain changes or the vision changes in real time, right? So
Yes.
it's a trade-off, but how do you balance that and how do you solve for that? Because
No, that is what we are trying to kind of do that as well. So the only way you do is you do extensive testing, right? You build for all of those corner cases, and then you start building all of your algos, and you start building your edge cases, and then you try to see, okay, for me to do this, what is it required? So do I need to get more visual parameters that is available out there for me to take the decision? If the answer to that question is, then what it is? Is the solution going to be like if I put just a 3D lidar and just map everything that is coming out there, right? Is that the solution? So that's how we have kind of evolved into where we are today, right? And the biggest issue, like I said, right? So with respect to a global coordinate and to the local coordinate, where everything lies. So is this, there was a pile here yesterday. was that pile moved or am I off?
Okay.
Like, did I get to a different place altogether? Those are the kind of things. Now, with respect to global positioning, that's where even if I use a basic GPS, that will work for me. And then we start localizing through. Right now, our localization is through vision only. So that's what we are trying to kind of do.
Economics perspective, when it comes to EVs and AVs, what makes or breaks profitability in this sector?
No, when you say profitability, are you talking from a company perspective or from a customer perspective?
From a company perspective, so from when you are building AVs and EVs, from a unit economics perspective, what is making or breaking profitability in this sector that people don't know
See,
about?
it is, say, for somebody like us, right? So there's a lot of R&D going on, right? So from a unit economics, always across the board, irrespective of who you are, scale makes a lot of sense. Like how many are you building on a monthly basis or a yearly basis? Because that dictates your purchasing power. So the bigger your purchasing power, this the you can demand a better cost, right? So I don't have the same purchasing power as the one of some of the biggest tractor manufacturers out there. Like, because
Hmm.
they sell 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 units a month.
Yeah.
I'm targeting about 100 to 200 units in the next, let's say, 5 to 6 months. So
Hmm.
my purchasing power is less. That is what, because then what happens is my unit cost generally keeps going up.
Hmm.
Right. So that is where I would say the scale dictates. I would say this is the number one factor, because if you do more scale, you can actually amortize a lot of your capex cost. You can amortize a lot of your R&D cost onto each individual sale of the vehicle, and then your overall cost kind of comes down. Otherwise, your overall
Right.
cost will generally be always be higher. It's also adoption as well, right? So if we are a new vehicle in the market, so adaptability also, what is the rate of adoption also makes uh, dictates a lot, because the rate of adoption dictates how much scale will I hit.
And considering that you are at the peak of a disruption cycle that the industry is witnessing, makes the modeling even harder uh, when you talk about numbers. So I think that's a unique problem I think that you are facing. um, where do you see the next big technological breakthrough coming from in terms of when you're talking about EVs and EVs? Is it sensors, compute, software, or energy systems, or is there any other component that you see significantly making improvements, or a sub part within your entire stack?
No, I would say it is. I mean, like you just mentioned, so it is based on the hardware, it is based on the sensors, and it is on the energy storage as well. See, the biggest thing is, if you go across the board, every EV maker, there are only two or three components that constitutes heavy cost for them, right? Whether it is two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, even a truck. So it's battery, it's motor, it's your controllers, right? So those are the highest cost components on your machine. So that is where a lot of, I would say, research is going on. A lot of alternatives are going on. Um, and there's also to make it safe as well. Like if you talk about the battery technology, NMC or NCA, to kind of get into LFP or to kind of solid state, lithium, this one, aluminum air or silicon based batteries. So that is where a lot of tech is going on. And the second one is on the motors. Motors are also, what is happening is, because of the rare earth issues that is happening with the geopolitical thing. So people are exploring how do you do without rare earth materials inside the motors as well. So that I would say is the primary movement where all the EVs are kind of going in,
Yeah.
right? And see, at the end of the day, any product, the ultimate aim is to be a commodity, right? As in, if you become a commodity, you can push more units. So it's like this. So how easily can I source the tires versus how easily can I source the motor?
Right.
So you have to kind of get into that commodity level, everything. So,
Right.
and that's where, again, it all boils down to scale. And once you hit scale, then you can start adding all of your sensors. So if you look at any other, let's say two-wheeler or four-wheeler, your base model will be there. And on top of that base model, they'll start adding all of your things. Okay, we have airbags, we have uh, passenger sensors, we have AC, like temperature sensors so that it cools everything. We have collision detection, you have ADAS. ADAS is literally just integration of sensors into the system, right? So where, okay, we add cameras, we add a couple of lidars and give early detection according to the drivers and all. So it's it starts building on top of it. So once you have the base set, and then it's just adding layers on top.
Just follow up on this. You said how, so there was a statement that you just said that how soon can you be like how soon
Mm.
can you make it a commodity, or how soon can you be
Yeah.
commoditized? And of course, so when you say commoditization, do you mean what characteristics of commoditization are we looking at? Like, are we looking at reliability of supply chain that comes with commoditization, standardization? Can you just go deeper into
Yeah,
that
sure.
statement?
So it is, like rightly you rightly said, Drishti, that it is about standardization, right? So earlier, I'll give you an example. Earlier, two-wheeler, there used to be a lot of variants. There used to be a lot of hub motors, sub 20 kilometers, and then you have up to 40, 45 kilometers range and speed and all of that. Now it is getting more and more narrow. So every two-wheeler, it's either between 3 to 5 kilowatts, right? It's a mid-drive, 3 to 5 kilowatts. That's what they target. Now, if you go in the market today, if you want to build a two-wheeler, it's very easy. You will get all the parts, because there are a lot of people who are selling two-wheeler motors. There are a lot of people who are supplying batteries for it. Like if you want a 3 to, let's say, 5 kilowatt more battery pack as well. So you will get a lot of people just selling these battery packs. It has gone to a stage where it has, because it is I would not call it 100% standardized. It is just same way as a engine. Let's say from a 90 from a 90 cc to 125 to 130 cc. Same way, the motors now today you go out in the market, you can source this very easily at a very competitive price, because the standardization has led to mass manufacturing, and which has led to it being very affordable, right? So that's the kind of way that everybody wants to kind of get into.
Okay. Because that reduces the supply chain disruptions and
Yes.
reduces cost significantly. I'm assuming the cost benefit is why you'd like to move towards that.
Yes. So
Okay.
that's
Uh,
primarily it, right? So see, because at the end of the day, it is, you may develop a very good tech, but the tech, if it is not being able to reach into the mass of, like, hands of all the mass people, you will still remain a very niche product, right? Where you cater to a particular very small segment, where you just push that, and you are not doing tens of thousands. You may do hundreds.
the implicit understanding of this is that I'm assuming your moat lies in the software, which is
Yep.
why you're okay in the commoditization of the supply chain aspects of it, because your moat is, I'm assuming, patented or has
Yes.
other form of protections. Thank you for that understanding. It really puts things together. I think I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from this conversation. But that's all from my end, Hemant. Thank you so much for doing this. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks, Rishi.